We all want an extra $3,000 a month that we don't have to work for. I have researched over the last 5 years how to do this, and I'm prepared today to discuss exactly how to get to this point of earning $3,000 a month while doing absolutely nothing. So that way you don't have to dedicate 5 years of your life figuring it out. Whether you are 24 or 45, I will go over exactly how much you need to have invested to have $3,000 a month in fun money hit your bank account every single month while you sit on a beach in the Bahamas sipping pina coladas. I have accomplished this by the age of 24 after working on it for the last 5 years. And when I say working on it, I mean getting that $3,000 a month, not the sitting on a beach in the Bahamas sipping pina coladas. But you can spend this money however you want. And I actually technically make $2,945 a month passively, to be clear. But I will be at $3,000 a month passively by the end of this June. So hit that subscribe button and we'll go ahead and jump into the video on how I do this and what you can do to make the same $3,000 a month passively. There are a ton of ways to make $3,000 a month without having to trade time for money. I make that $2,949 a month through real estate. It will be at $3,000 by this June because one of my units is due for a rent increase. This is how I do it. I have been accumulating real estate over the last 5 years, and this is what it presently pays me net in passive income every month without me having to do any additional work for it. Wait, before you stop watching, this real estate market is tough in 2024, and I am convinced we are at the top of the cycle. So I will go over a whole bunch of other ways that are significantly easier later in this video. But while on the real estate note, I bought my first duplex in 2020. This was a great time because I got in right before real estate prices exploded and when rates were low. So my mortgage is minimal, allowing me to profit a good chunk of money each month. This combined with the other two properties that I own add up to the net cash flow that I referenced earlier of $2,949 a month. Now, this is obviously not accounting for the debt pay down, appreciation, tax benefits, all the other things that come along with real estate, but it's just accounting for the after expense cash that I receive each month. Now, real estate does require a hefty upfront payment to make that cash flow. I invested a total of about $20,000 for the first deal and then about $250,000 to acquire the other two deals. But if you don't have that, then there are some other ways that are significantly easier, honestly. A high yield savings account that yields 4% annually would need to have a balance of about $916,383.16 to be able to draw $3,000 a month in passive income. And I know I said earlier, there would be easier ways. This is just another example of another way that you can make passive income, but it's certainly not the easiest, and it does require even more money than real estate. So I'm gonna go into more options as well in just a moment. This means with that same 4% yield, you would need to contribute $1,692.55 a month until January 1st, 2050 if you are currently at the age of 24. The Amex savings account currently yields 4.25%, and that can obviously vary, but if you had the money sitting in the account invested in, say, the S&P 500, where you reinvested the dividends, it made a minimum, just a minimum, of 7%, even though the S&P 500 has an average return of 10.26% since the inception back to 1957, then you would need to contribute $624 a month until January 1st, 2050 to accumulate a total of $530,584.16 by 2050 to get that $3,000 a month in passive income. Another way you could make this money would be by investing in dividend stocks. A dividend is a payment back to you as the investor as a thank you for owning the stock by the shareholders, or by the board members rather. It is not guaranteed. However, say a company issues a dividend of 5% and the stock price is $100. That means that in exchange for owning that stock, you would receive a payment in the amount of $5, or if you had $10,000 in the stock, then you would receive $500. You have the options with dividends to roll them into buying more shares shares of the stock or by having them paid out as a cash payment to you. Stocks that pay 5% dividends pretty consistently would be Dow, Kinder Morgan, Altria, Verizon, just to name a few. Now, you should look at the Morningstar rating of these to see how likely they are to continue to pay these dividends. And I'm certainly not licensed to give it financial advice, but these are to name a few stocks that pay dividends of or above 5%. You would need to invest a total of $736,354.65 or $1,173 a month if you are 24 until January 1st, 2050 to make that $3,000 a month passively. Another option would be peer-to-peer lending. This one I would consider very risky, and I would be 100% certain that there are multiple stopgaps and contracts in place to be sure you get your money back if worse comes to worse, but this is another option. With peer-to-peer lending, it is risky because if you don't take proper precautions, you can obviously lose all the money that you lent. But with lending your own money, you have the ability to decide the terms of the loan, including, but not limited to, upfront points on the loan, interest on the loan, payback period of the loan, collateral if the loan is not paid back. When it's your money that you're lending, you can get very creative with the terms to theoretically make the risk worthwhile. Now, with this, you would have to lend a pretty hefty amount to make that $3,000 a month. With lending, you would need to lend $825,000 over 6 years at 8% interest rate. Now, obviously, you can fudge those numbers a little bit. Say you lend for 10 years at a 10% interest rate. Then it would obviously require you to lend less money because you're making more interest over the life of the loan. Now, another cool thing with lending is you can front load the interest or amortize it. So that way you get paid back a bulk of your interest sooner. But with this setup, I came to $3,000 a month by taking the total interest of $216,474.49 over the 72 months, which is the life of the loan, dividing it by 72 months, which gives you a monthly interest amount of $3,006. Or you could do a combination of the referenced options to make a diversified passive income portfolio. For example, if you lend $50,000 at 8%, you purchase a rental property with $200,000 and net $12,000 a year, and then you invest $400,000 in a mixed bag of dividend yielding stocks with a 5% annual yield. With that full portfolio, you'd make $4,000 a year from lending, $12,000 a year from the rental property, and $20,000 a year from dividends. That's $36,000 a year or $3,000 a month. Now, I know that $650,000 sounds like a lot of money, but if you think about it, you are really just $28 a day over the next 31 years away from sipping pina coladas on the beach while that $3,000 hits your account every month passively. This might sound a little discouraging, but these last options were the slow and steady options. The real estate method is the route I took and was how I was able to make that $3,000 a month in 5 years. It requires you to save up the money for the down payment, buy a below market value real estate deal, fix that deal up for less than you bought the deal for below that market value, and then take advantage of the appreciation, and then also rent out the unit for more than the mortgage and expenses are to take advantage of the debt pay down and the cash flow that the property produces. I got lucky on the first property, not gonna lie. I wasn't expecting the market to nearly double in the first 4 years of owning it. I was planning on buying this property and it being worth a little bit of cash flow, tax incentives, and mainly bought it for the appreciation that I knew I was gonna face over the 30 years of owning it or while having that mortgage. I totally get that this is lucky, but it's still extremely possible with effort of finding an under market deal. Sending letters to property owners who own the property outright, have deferred maintenance on the property, or maybe even a multifamily that you know that the units are vacant. If the units are vacant, it's not producing income, which means the owner's likely at a loss. So that's an opportunity for you as a buyer. To be honest, I do recall being pretty nervous at the time of actually buying that first property. I submitted the offer sight unseen for $5,000 above asking within an hour of the property actually hitting the MLS. Contingent upon seeing the place in a general inspection, which this was all in a questionable market where most people were labeling it as a repeat of 2008. In fact, I filmed a video back then about how it wasn't a repeat of 2008, but obviously I'm not a fortune teller. I could be totally wrong at that point in time, and it ended up working out and being all right. I do go into more detail in my other real estate videos on my first deal and how much I've made from it in total, not just the cash flow, and I'll post those at the end of this video. But I guess my main point in this is it might be scary. You can limit your risk by expanding your time horizon. The longer you hold, over time, real estate does appreciate. The longer you hold it, the more it averages out, even if you face an initial hit. That's within reason, but if you want immediate equity and you want to make that $3,000 a month faster, it's going to require some effort and legwork on your end. But as I'm sure you've heard, the saying goes, the things that are worth having in life are hard to come by, because if they were easy to come by, then everyone would have them, and then they probably wouldn't be worth having at all. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you got some value out of it. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and go ahead and check out one of my other videos over here.